Pencil Kings, 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 Pencil Kings.
If you go into the industry, just make sure to remember where you come from and what really makes you, what is fun to you.
All right, we are back. This is the Pencil Kings podcast, and I'm excited today to talk to Marco Plouffe. I know I'm saying his name wrong. He'll come on here and say how his name should be said, but we'll have show notes for this at pencilkings.com/MARCO-PLOUFFE. As well, I got to mention, we've got our Patreon page up. So if you want to support this podcast and what we do, we've got some rewards for people. That's at Patreon, patreon.com/pencilkings. And now that all that is out of the way, let's get into this episode. So Marco, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. I'm just chilling in my basement, doing my stuff, doing my contracts. I'm doing fine.
All right. And could you give people just a short overview of well, I guess what you do right now, and then we'll dive into your actual story.
Yeah. Well, presently what I'm doing is I own this company. Me and the other co-founder, which is a good friend of mine. The name of the company is called Chaos Masons. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just like a name. But technically what we do is we take care of freelance stuff that has to do with character modeling mostly, or character design for the video game industry, for the movie industry, or even sometimes for the toy industry. Toy industry is actually pretty much the funnest one to work in because it's just like sculpting in ZBrush and that kind of stuff. So I assume most people know ZBrush, but like just in case, we're talking about the sculpting software, digital sculpting. It's basically what I do and what I've been practicing since I got out of school. And like with those skills, I was able to meet Cedric, which is the co-founder of my company, and we just decided to do the same thing we do in the industry, but do it with our own company and working with many clients and everything. That's the gist of what we're doing.
Perfect. That was a great intro. And just before we started, you were telling me, I asked, so where did you start with art? Were you always an artist? Because I've heard now, from interviewing a lot of people, I've heard this similar story where people they've been interested in art, and I kind of think they were a pretty good artist anyway. And then something changed and they decided, okay, now I'm going to go pro. But for you, it wasn't like that, right?
You can judge. I'll give you an example of like when I started to do art and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I can go back really far. And just to give you an example, when I was a kid, I was always drawing, always
Okay.
drawing. But I'm not talking about any kind of like academic kind of like drawing or that kind of stuff. Like I never went to a school to learn how to draw. And I was probably the only kid almost in my town that knew how to draw. Like I knew like maybe two other guys maybe. And that's it. Like I knew nobody, like none of my friends I could share that thing with. It was really like a loner activity that I was doing. And so no, I never went to school, and I never really was like, as a kid, I was pretty lazy, and I really loved like entertaining myself than like trying to accomplish something. I never had like big goals or whatever, but in the back of my head, I knew I always wanted to do something about like video game and art because, well, I don't know. I mean, I still liked art, even if I wasn't really serious about it. But like, I knew that I loved video games though, because I mean, I was a kid. Video game was like the big thing, and I was always playing my video games and whatever. The thing is that like when you ask a kid that has like, 12, 13 and 14 years old what he wants to do later, because that's when you start to have to consider that, right? Because you're like going to be out of high school not too long, so you have to know where you're going. At that point, I mean, I knew that I wanted to do something with video game, but I mean, I wasn't in a small town. It was like nothing really there to learn 3D, and it was not really like promoted also, like the only places that was promoted and where I was, the closest was Montreal. and Montreal was still like pretty far from where I lived. It was like a 2 hour ride, so I would have to move to be able to actually go to the schools there and to learn and to blah blah blah. But I mean, when you're out of high school, well, I mean, where I come from, where you're out of high school at like 17-year-old, 16, 17, whatever, and at that time, I mean, just the idea of like moving away was like way too scary. So plus the fact that, like I said, I was lazy. So for me, it seemed like too much hard work, right, to do that kind of stuff. So I just decided to do something else. I decided to go study in we call it networking, but technically it's just like a study that makes you become like a technical artist. Not technical. Wow, that's not what I meant. Like an informatic technician, IT guy, the guy that repairs the computer at the government, right? Like that was that's what I was doing. And it was shitty, actually. It was not fun at all. But I mean,
There must have been one fun thing. I mean, like,
oh yeah, I can tell you like a couple of fun things, but it's kind
all right,
of
well,
crap.
yeah. I know what you mean. I just don't want to hate on the government too much. They're such an easy target.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
okay,
no,
so
no, yeah, it's not a good sketch bit anymore. If you do stand up, it's like no, you gotta stop hitting on the government because it's been done before. But there's some things that needs to be said. That's always been that, and you have to be a certain kind of like person to enjoy your time at the government. And for me, it was not.
yeah.
Like I
I've
mean,
heard
the
this
only thing
before.
that I liked about the government is the fact that like I was in a closed office and I actually brought my guitar to work, and some guy actually taught me everything I have to know about classical theory in music with like the guitar that I brought, and that's my fun time at the government, right? So when that's your most fun time and the most valuable thing you can do there, I think it's a good indicative that you don't really enjoy your time there. And that's what happened to me, is that I just slowly realized that I cannot stay there because like my life is just going to go down the shitter if I actually continue that way. So
actually, I want to ask a question there.
yeah.
While you were going through this time, were you still drawing, or did you kind of lose that whole creative thing? Like, I feel that in high school, it's still acceptable to be drawing, but maybe once you graduate high school, if you're spending all your time sketching, people are kind of like, "Why are you doing that?" Or
Yeah, I know.
did you have that experience?
Yeah, well, it's somewhat similar actually. It's fun. It's funny that you talk about that because that's kind of like where I was going with my story. The point is like when I realized that I didn't have any fun anymore at the government, I knew I had to like pick up drawing again, and it has been like since like high school I think that I didn't draw. Like I didn't draw for almost like easily. No, you know what? Near the end of my high school, I stopped drawing because I picked up on the guitar and I started to play guitar. And for some reason, I stopped drawing when I started to play guitar. But anyways, so like for maybe like 8 years, I didn't draw at all.
Wow.
At all. And all my friends were always wondering why I was not drawing because I've always been drawing before. So technically, I just realized that like I'm better as a visual artist than like a musician. Music is just an hobby. It's still an hobby. I still love it, but I realize now I have to pick that back up because when I was not happy at the government, I did like a lot of like soul searching and try to realize why did I think my life sucks. And I think that what I realized that I needed to be validated by something that I do well. And I don't know why, but when I left I gave up on drawing. Well, not gave up. It's more like it just happened that I drew less and less. But
Yeah.
that when I realized that I disconnected from that and it's something that I actually do good and I'm happy of doing it, that's when I realized now I have to go and do that again. And so I started to draw again, and I started to draw because I knew that I wanted to go study into a 3D school. But the thing is that I've actually checked the 3D school that I wanted to go, which was Campus Ubisoft. I had like 2 months to prepare a portfolio to go there because it was the last year also. And I was like, okay, well, I haven't been drawing for like 8 years. Holy shit, how am I going to do that? So I spent like maybe half the days at the government just like doing paperwork. And I'm doing like a little quotation with my fingers right now. You can't see, but that's what I'm doing. And basically, I was spending like half of the day just like drawing on the side, going on the internet to go check tutorials on how to draw, how to render, how to practice anatomy and that kind of stuff. And it was really really tight because I needed to finish the portfolio in like within a month and a half, 2 months, something like that, to send it to the school to be accepted in 3D to then start this career. And I don't know. I mean, it's just like it just happened like at the last second, but I knew that I wanted to do it. So like I just went through the motion and I learned a couple of things drawing here and there, but it was hard because I realized at that point that I should have went to like all those drawing classes that my parents wanted me to go, but I was too lazy to do it. So long story just to say that like no academical drawing studies or that kind of stuff. I really had to just learn on the fly, and everything that I know, I learned it in 2009 when I went to that school actually. So I've learned how to draw and I learned good anatomy at the same time that I learned how to do 3D and all that stuff.
And so the reason why I think this is so miraculous and amazing is because the work that I see on your website, not only is it like, it's amazing 3D work, but there's also the design aspect that I think is really amazing as well. And I don't know if people can appreciate, because I feel I didn't appreciate the separation of being a good, somebody who can take a picture and make a model out of it versus somebody who can come up with something totally unique and original and also design that in 3D. I feel like, there are a lot of people that can do it, but it's still, I feel like it's a bit of a unique skill. Usually you have your concept artists, that's their job, designing things. Then you've got your 3D artists, and that's their job, is to make it into 3D. They're separate things, but you're doing everything.
Well, thanks. Seriously, thanks for the comments. It's really cool. I think what I have to say about that is since the beginning when I was drawing as a kid, actually, you know what? I think it's kind of like the first time I'm thinking about that. So it's going to be like live retrospective on like something that I did in my past. But you just made me realize something maybe. When I was a kid, I was never really like trying to learn how to draw well, but I was always trying to learn how to create something. And it wasn't really that easy for me because, for example, I was always like inspired by things that already existed, and I wanted to do like things that already existed because I thought they were cool. Like it took me a while to realize that I have to create new stuff that doesn't exist, or that at least in my head the process feels like it doesn't exist, right? Because everything exists. But like being able to actually be confident enough to create new stuff, it took me like really really a long time. But still, if I go back to when I was actually a kid, I remember when I was a kid, the thing that was drawing the most was like Mega Man bosses. So I was
Nice.
like really conceptualizing my own characters at that point. I mean, it was still in the idea of like what Mega Man is, the visual direction of Mega Man and that kind of stuff. But I drew like no shit, probably like 150 or like 200 Mega bosses. Oh yeah. And
Do you remember any of the bosses you made? And for those of you listening that don't know about Mega Man, there's always like Woodman and Airman, and it's just something with the name Man on the end.
oh yeah, it was getting pretty stupid. I remember Airport Man. Because I did airplane. I was like, okay, what else is there beside an airplane? Well, there's an airport. Well, let's do Airport Man. And I remember that character sucked so much. It was not a good character. I remember one of my favorite ones was Buffalo Man because he was cool.
He would
Like,
be
he had
pretty cool.
horns and stuff. And like I was always also thinking about like, his attacks and that kind of stuff, which if I compare to what I do today, it's basically the same thing that I do. I mean, probably remember seeing like my Seven Sinners project that I did, the Seven Sins. Well, when I actually created those characters, I basically just used the same kind of like child mentality of like, okay, I'm going to draw the characters and then I'm going to figure out while I'm drawing, like what they live, what they do, why they do that, why they actually end up being sins, and like try to actually compel that, to convey that story through like just the character itself. Which is kind of hard when you're a character artist because it's not as easy to tell a story with just a single character that is not moving and not doing anything than like when you're an illustrator where you can actually more like portray an entire world and that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's just doing it as a kid. It just ended up always having that in the back of my head and always trying to make it, I don't know, like readable, not readable, but like imaginable or like real in a sense. And well, if I look at other characters that I did when I do my design, it's technically what I try to do. But I don't know. I mean, I think what I'm trying to say is just like I've always been doing it when I was a kid. Like even I was never like drawing inside of the line, coloring inside of the lines when they were giving me like things to color. I was always like turning the page over and drawing my own line work and whatever. But also, if I look at another partial of my life, I think that I've never really practiced rendering and that kind of stuff. Like for me, the idea was just like grabbing a pen to draw an idea. And I don't care if it's not really done well. And it's only in my later years, like it's only like maybe 2-3 years ago that I realized the importance of like rendering your stuff well and making it like polished and beautiful and whatever. But my point is I've always wanted to conceptualize my own stuff. And it's hard. It's hard to do it. And it's not super easy to do it in 3D, but I don't know. I've always wanted to do it. And it's kind of like my goal now in a sense. Like even if I learned how to actually render things well, I think that I've always wanted that in the end to be like a concept artist. It's just the same way that it wasn't easy for me to go in 3D. It's not super easy for me to go in concepts also, like straight concepts, because I feel sometimes that I lack the tools, right? Or maybe the workflows. And I think I'm just, now that I'm established, I guess I'm just like slowly going there, slowly trying to get like the necessarily skills to do this conceptual work, but with the tools that I know now, right? So, yeah, I mean, it tells a lot about like always wanted to have somewhere next you want to go once you actually accomplish something. That's basically what I'm trying to do, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool the story that you just told about how you always wanted to create something new. And there was one previous guest that brought this up as well, and I felt the same thing. But it's, I didn't have this realization until this year, when I'm 34, that my whole life I've wanted to create things. It was never about draw within the lines or copy this thing. It was always like, no, I want to take an existing story for me. Like Ninja Turtles was what Mega Man was to you.
Yes.
And I would design my own levels and my own environments that the Ninja Turtles could play. I could design my own Ninja Turtle video games, and I would do this all on paper, and I had notebooks full of this stuff and stories and everything. But you just take an existing property because that's sort of safe, or it's something that or you're inspired by it and you love it, and then you can be creative within that universe and still like get all kinds of crazy experience and just let your imagination run wild. And I think that for somebody listening, if you're in that same place, it's totally okay to do that, like to draw artwork in the style of the thing that you really love, but still be creative, allow yourself to push the boundaries and see how far you can take it to create, some wild characters that could also coexist in that universe.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's something that people sometimes they stop themselves from doing, because if you don't have like much imagination, let's say, or at least if you feel you don't really have much imagination, you can have a lot of fun just by taking like something that already exists and putting like a new skin on top, or just having fun like creating your own levels, your own stories, your own this and that on top of pre-existing work, right? It kind of feels like, for some people it feels like it's fan art, and it's not good because it's fan art, but in reality, personally, I really love fan art. If you look on my website, there's going to be a lot of things that already exist. But the point that I wanted to say about that is, I think you need to start somewhere, and even if you start by like doing like stuff that already exists, in the end, you're kind of like assimilating the essence of that thing, and by doing it a lot, you end up just like understanding how that they do what they do, and if you actually now venture in something that is more creative and you force yourself to start from like zero would be in quotes again, because there's no real zero state. But you will already have stuff in your head that's there, and your exploration is going to be based on the things that the essence of the things that you now understand. And essence is like a really abstract word, but it's also a really abstract idea that I'm talking about. Point is, when I do my stuff now, when I create my stuff and I'm done and I look at my work, sometimes I can see, oh, okay, that was in the back of my head. That whole thing was in the back of my head when I did it, and I didn't know it, and I had no reference about that thing, that comic or that movie. But when I look at what I did, I understand where I come from for like doing this. And I think that I'm really, really glad in a sense that I can see that, because it's like it actually gives a lot of credit to where I came from. For example, if you look at my last character, the Wasp character, like the big robot, the yellow and black robot, for some people it will be super, super obvious. For me, honestly, it was not. I didn't realize how much I had Evangelion at the back of my head while drawing this character. And it's really just at the end I was like, oh yeah, I like it. Wait a second. That kind of makes me think of an Evangelion. And like, no shit, I have nothing to hide. But like in my reference folder, I had everything except Evangelion. But it's just like, that's because I read Evangelion, I liked it, and I drew like characters like this. And if I didn't do that, I would probably not have the inspiration that I have. That piece right now would not exist. So that's why it's important to actually start somewhere, right? Even if you feel that it's not like the virtuose place to start, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Virtuosus, whatever. It's something that I did accidentally when I was a kid, and I would actually recommend people to just try doing it, just having fun with art and not caring what it means, or like if it already exists or whatever. I don't know. It's just, some people ask themselves like so many complicated questions about art when it's supposed to be easy, and it's not always easy to make it easy, because sometimes you really want to succeed at it and you become super serious about it. But I feel sometimes that like art is something that the more you take it seriously, the less it's actually going to bring to you, because art is not about like making money, right? It's about just like, it's mostly about the process, right? And the rendering at the end and making it look good is nice, and having someone tell you that it's nice, but I don't know. I mean, it's not to become too spiritual, but I guess that like lately I realized that the only thing that's important like is, well, are you having fun doing it? Well, then that's good. Doesn't care like it's good or not. If it's well done or not, it's just the road to get to what it looks like at the end. That's the important part.
Yeah, definitely. And I've started to come to this realization as well, that it really is all about having fun. And, I got to a point in my career where I wasn't having fun, and then I left and I started Pencil Kings, and then I wasn't really drawing anymore. And I've been like really thinking about, what was it in the beginning that allowed me to like have my career? Why did I keep doing all this art all the time, no matter what? No matter if my parents told me it was not going to amount to anything, no matter if people made fun of me, or I didn't get the scholarship for going to art school, or I couldn't go to the art school. All these things that seemed to be stacked against me. I just kept at it, and then I lost it, and I was like, why? What was it in the beginning? Because if you go back to the beginning, then you can see. And I was like, it was just fun in the beginning, and somewhere along the lines, it became not fun anymore. It was all about like, how much art can you make in the shortest amount of period of time.
Yeah.
That's the machine aspect of the entertainment industry, and there's still a lot of creativity within that, but that's where I was trapped in sort of like the most done in the most efficient way possible, and it was like it was a cool challenge from that point, but I lost the love. And then after thinking about it a lot, it's like, yeah, that's it. If you're not loving your art or loving what you're drawing, draw something else. Like, don't force yourself to draw that thing that's driving you crazy. You'll get it eventually. If it's some kind of technical thing, you'll get it. But go back to what's fun. Just work on that. See if you can practice that same skill with the fun stuff.
Yeah. You're totally right. You just said something that really I can reflect to also. And it's true that, like, okay, I haven't been like in the industry like that long, in a sense. Like, I've been in the industry for maybe like 5 years now, 5 years and a half, 6 or whatever. But I actually started, when I started doing 3D, I was really like just doing whatever I wanted. I was having fun with it. And I realized that I was not doing enough personal work, and I decided, you know what? No, it's going to be healthy for me to actually go back to doing personal work. I'm going to reconnect with myself. It's going to be fun. And I'm happy that I did it. But something that I've noticed when I started to do it again was that I didn't have the same kind of like confidence that I had before doing something, because I got caught in the chase of like, if I do something, it has to be the next best shit. Like, I have to one up everything that I did before if I want to do something new, or else there's no reason why doing it, which is extremely not healthy like mentality. Like, don't do it. No, nobody should do that. It may be, in a sense, you're going to become like a crazy artist because you're always one-upping yourself, but you might become one crazy artist with a bullet in his head at the end, or just like broken dreams and that kind of stuff. It's a chase that, for me, I kind of think that it's not always going in the right direction and not really giving you as much as you could actually benefit from art. Art's not a race, like you said. So that's the thing. It's weird. I recently started to do like a lot of concept, and it's not as easy as it was before. And I think that's because of what you said. You kind of lose this fun, this liberty that you have before. And I don't know. I don't feel like pointing fingers, but maybe in a sense you're right that it's something that happens when you're in the industry. Not saying that the industry tries to make you become that kind of person, but because of like the goals of an industry and the big machines and like how everything works, I think that you can easily lose the fun of doing like just your own personal work, things that really connects with you and that don't matter at all. So I would be actually, if I had actually suggestion to give, that would probably be one. Actually, I just realized that is, if you go into the industry, just make sure to remember where you come from and what really makes you, what is fun to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, I feel like we should just take one more section before we wrap this interview up, because we try and keep them short and sweet. So, would you rather talk about your company, or would you rather talk about your going through school and kind of breaking into the industry? I think both of these would be great topics, but we've only got time for one, so I'll let you choose.
Actually, I think what really helped me is I got a lot of friends back at home that actually started to notice that I was not really happy. And a lot of them told me at many moments, like, well, dude, you should go in video games. Like, I mean, that's the cool thing and blah, blah, blah. But to be honest, I think at that point I was doing like a little, like, not a depression, but just like, I was not really feeling really well. So for me, I didn't have really the energy to just say like, yes, oh, I'm going to do it. Yeah. So I actually needed like a lot of my friends to actually suggest me to do this process. And one of them was the guy I was working at the government. And this guy really like always the time bugging me and giving me like newspaper of like schools that open in Montreal and whatever. One time there was like this open door at Ubisoft, not the campus Ubisoft, but Ubisoft itself. And I went there just to check the place out, see if like it could be cool to work in that industry. And there was like 3 lines because there was 3 things you could visit. There was like the art, the administrative things, and the testers. And I wanted to be in the artist line, but I didn't know there was like a line for each of that. And I ended up going into the testers line. So when I got into Ubisoft, I was like, fuck no. I waited like 5 hours maybe to go into school. And I had to go to Montreal also. I was not living at Montreal at that time. So it was just like a shitty situation. I was in the school. I was not happy because I wanted to talk to someone. And I just like, I asked the guy, can you just like point to me to someone that's maybe here like during the weekend that I just could ask him like a question or two. And there was like this guy going through the corridor at that time. And the guide in question pointed to that guy. It was like, well, that's a guy working here. He probably can answer 1 or 2 of your questions. So I asked him his email. He gave it to me. And then I came back home and I wrote him an email and I sent him my portfolio. I was like, well, how does that talk to you? Like, is that good? What is not good? Do you have tips? Like the kind of email that I actually now receive sometime, and I try to answer like the emails like short and sweet, but with the best suggestion that I can give. Because when I sent an email to that guy, he sent me exactly the same thing. He sent me an email. He told me how he felt about my portfolio. He told me what I had to practice. He gave me a couple of like links of tutorials and books to buy. And well, that's exactly what I did for 2 months after. Funny story, when I actually got accepted at Campus Ubisoft, I went into my first class and this guy was my teacher there.
Ah, wicked.
Exactly. Talk about like the universe thing or whatever. Like it was so weird. But that guy that pushed me really helped actually to go through like everything that I had to do. And he kind of like motivated me by being honest with like what I needed to do, what I needed to practice and everything. So like I'm really grateful for that. Plus also he was just an awesome teacher at school. Because when I was at school, I knew already that I wanted to do characters because that's what I love. I love characters. I mean, environment and everything, it's super swell. I know how to appreciate it, but I don't feel it the same way that I feel characters. Like I've been drawing Mega Man bosses all my life when I was a kid, so of course I'm going to go into characters. And the first thing that he told me there was that it's like almost impossible to get a job as a character artist because that's what everybody wants to do, and the things you need to know, like the technical things or the artistic things that you need to know to be a character artist can be like extremely difficult. And I think like just to give you an example of I think why this is it's because like as a human being you always are aware of people more than like your environment, I think, because it's like a survival question. And I think that like people are more critical of like characters, and like for example they're going to be more critical of like the face of a character, of the eye of a character, of the way it moves, because that's how we actually perceive life. And to be able to be good at characters, you have to know like so much stuff that's going to fool the human eye, that I think that's the reason why, first of all, it's fun, and the reason why it's hard to get good at it and to be good at school, right? Thing is, I still wanted to do it. I was hell-bent on the idea that that's what I'm going to do. And maybe at other moments in my life, that could have been like a deterrent to tell me, no, maybe go in something safer. But since I actually had to move from my hometown, oh, by the way, I had a house there, so I had to sell my house, I had to sell my car, I had to say goodbye to my friends, say goodbye to my family. So I think that since I had to do all those sacrifices and move to another city and have actually another life, I kind of like realized, well, I mean, I'm not going to back up because someone tells me it's hard. I mean, I didn't sacrifice all of that just to have like something that's safe and fun and not fun, but safe. I really wanted that. Like, I really, really, really wanted that. I think that's probably the main reason why I think I've been able to get where I am right now. It's because like sometimes people want to do stuff and they just want it to have it. Like, I do that with some stuff in my life also. Like, I'm part of the people that do it. But sometimes you really have to ask yourself, like, would I be actually ready to sacrifice a lot of things to actually do that, to become that. If you find that the answer is yes and you're able to do those sacrifices, I think you're going to realize that you have the strength to go through everything that you need to go through to actually learn whatever you need to learn to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And just to make that point clear, so I want to make sure that I understand it. So when you're saying that if you're, you just want to do the thing to do the thing, and an example of this might be bungee jumping. You want to do bungee jumping, so you do bungee jumping, and it's kind of like you check it off a list. But if you had to train for like 2 years to do a bungee jump, would you want to do a bungee jump?
Yeah.
And so with art, or with designing characters or whatever that big thing is that you want to do, it's like, are you willing to put in the time? Are you willing, if to go through hell and back to become a Navy SEAL or whatever that big goal that you have for yourself? And if you are, then awesome, go for it. But if you're not, and if you think of it more like, well, it's sort of like a checkbox item. It would be cool to be, an amazing poker player, but I'm not going to do it. I don't love poker that way.
Yeah.
But if you love your art, then, that's the first sign that, and you feel like you can make it, you can push yourself really far. And when you don't know what to do, you can reach out to find people who can tell you where you need to push.
Exactly. So. You're totally right. And I think another way to show people like how I can be actually on the other side of the fence of that argument. When I stopped drawing and I started to play guitar, I had those big dreams of like becoming like a rock star, like on stage doing like guitar flips and like doing solos and like, oh, he plays super fast. Oh my God, it's so cool. And then like you hang out with the crew at the end of the shows. And I had like this big thing in the back of my head that I thought that like being a guitarist would actually bring me to the light. But the thing is that later I realized, oh, okay, no, I'm playing guitar for not for the good reasons. I play guitar because of like, kind of like the show of like being a guitarist and whatever. Now I can say that I still play guitar once in a while. I really love it, but I realized that I actually had this problem with music. I was not playing for the good reasons. But the thing is that I think that I've learned that by playing music. And when I came back to art, I realized, wow, I cannot do the same thing with art. I cannot let myself like fooled by like the idea of doing something without really wanting to do this thing. And when I came back to art, I came back more mature, just because of what I learned by doing something else artistically.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I think about it sometimes, and I'm so grateful for music because of like what it taught me actually, and it really shows how like art. The different kind of like art can actually relate, because that's exactly what happened to me. Like the maturity of like why do art, how to do it well, how to be whatever, like focused in learning something. That's what happened to me with music. So, and once in a while I still play music, but like now I know it's a hobby. I know it's for fun. I know I don't have to be good at it. I just need to play just to play and just to have a good time, and that's it. So yeah, you have to be honest with yourself sometimes and look at like what you're doing, what you want to do, and really know, like really see if you really feel genuinely that you want to do it. I realized with guitar that it was not the case. So I realized in what place guitar was in my life, and I put it there. And then I came back to myself and I really asked myself, what do I really want to do? What do I want to do? Like really, like what do I want? Or like what do I, Jesus Christ, want is maybe not the right word. Maybe sometimes the word is like need. What do I need to do?
Yeah, that's what when you were just explaining this and had the guitar analogy, I think there's things in my life that I wanted to do because I thought they were cool. And if you think something is cool and you want to be that, you're like, I want to be a cop because being a cop is cool. That's probably a sign that you shouldn't be a police officer. If you say, I want to be a video game artist because I'm fascinated by the way that when I play a video game, I love looking at the art and I love looking and figuring out how everything is made, and I love reading books about how it's made. That's a sign that maybe this is what you should be doing, right? And you could apply this to anything in life where you want to dig deeper and really understand it on a deeper level. But if you're just like, yeah, playing guitar is cool, well, that's fine. That's great for a hobby, but it's maybe not something that you want to dedicate or, go to school to learn or invest years of your life into it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you ask a question to a lot of artists, the popular answer might be, I don't know why I'm doing it, which is actually I think the good answer to give when you're asking an artist, why are you doing what you're doing? It's like, well, I don't know. It's because it's supposed to be like, it's supposed to come from somewhere like super deep, like the need to do it, right? Not the cool factor of doing it. Like, seriously, I really don't think there's going to be like a 3D artist saying like, oh yeah, I'm a 3D artist because it's so cool to be a 3D artist and it's so nice and everything. Maybe it can drive you to go where you want to go, but you're not going to be really like successful at it because something like the coolness of something goes away really fast, really fast. For example, one of my friends actually toured the whole American continent with his band, and the first tour he came back and he was like, okay, it was hell. It was not like it's not cool anymore. I don't want to tour anymore, but now I have a contractor, like a contract obligation, right? So I was really fooled by the coolness of the thing and experimenting it. I realized that's not really what I want to do. I am quoting him right now, but I relate a lot to that sometimes, and I think that's people should know about that, because if you want to really like go somewhere, you have to know why you want to go there. And it's a lot of introspective, but I mean, you're gonna find your answer if you're really just honest with yourself and you just take the time to think about it.
All right, well, that's the perfect place to wrap this up. So, Marco, where's the best place for people to find you online? And then we'll include those links in our show notes so it's easy for people to find them. But where are the best places?
Well, I think that the best place would be if you just want to look at my portfolio, just go on my website. Just put it there for the people to go see it. But quickly, it's www.marcoplouffe.com, and it's spelled MARCOPLOUFFE.com. And if you are interested to see what I do with my company partner, it's www.chaosmasons, spelled KEOSMASONS.com. And that's our company stuff. So you're going to see Cedric stuff. You're going to see my stuff. And that's what you do.
Cool. And we will also have show notes for this, as well as Marco's links at pencilkings.com/ I'm going to try it, Marco Plouffe.
That's good.
MARCO-PLOUFFE. And yeah, I think that's it. But I guess, you know what? I need to support this podcast. So if you're an artist and you need a community of other artists to support you and have fun, engaging challenges and workshops, that's what we're doing inside Pencil Kings. We've also got professional courses, but it's really about getting you to take action and getting you to figure out what you want to do with your art. So if that's you, come check us out. And thank you, Marco, so much for being so generous with your stories. I thought I had a blast recording this, and I wish you all the best with your company and the concepts that you're doing.
Well, thanks a lot. It really means a lot to me. So if anybody, like I said, have any question, it's also I really like to help people out. So don't hesitate to send me an email my way.
All right. Awesome. All right. We are done. So we'll see you next week on the Pencil Kings podcast.
Bye.
Demands patience, skill, years of practice.
Ah, you talk like a fool. I would trade a century of practice for an ounce of inspiration.